Welcome to Hello Chaos. This is a weekly podcast exploring the messy and chaotic minds and lives of founders, entrepreneurs, and innovators. Every week, we talk to founders from different industries, different company levels and stages, all shapes and sizes. We hear the real, the raw, the unbiased founder stories. It's why our motto is where aha meets oh shit. We drop new episodes every single Sunday. Founders tune into us to listen in for tips, insights, strategies on not just growing their business, but on ways to be a better leader, a better founder, a better people manager. HelloCast is one of the many resources brought to you by Orange Whip. That is Orange Whip, WIP for work in progress. Orange Whip is a multimedia company dedicated to serving founders and entrepreneurs in affiliate cities. We've designed hyperlocal media platforms to inform, inspire, and create connections to help founders succeed. Our innovative digital zines are an all-in-one content hub with fresh and engaging stories, curated local calendars, and local dynamic roadmaps to help founders navigate their local entrepreneurial ecosystems. We've done all the hard work for founders. They only need to go to one trusted source to find the local information they need. So if you want to find out what city we're in, go to Orange Whip. That's orangewhipwip.com to go find if we're in your city. If we're not in your city, send a request. We need to be in your city. Every city needs to have an Orange Whip. So my name is Jennifer Sutton. I am your host of Hello Chaos. I am the founder of Orange Whip and Bright Marketing. People also call me JJ as my nickname, so you can do that too. And today we have Nick Berry, the CEO, entrepreneur, author, founder of many businesses. Welcome to Hello Chaos, Nick.
Hi, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And I should have said, and podcaster.
And podcaster. Why leave anything out, right?
Wiley, you're the multi-hyphenate, right? Is
I'm
that
like the personal trainer who has all of the initials after their name.
That's right.
That's what I wanted to do.
Well, thank you for being a guest, and I appreciate you taking the time and wanting to have a conversation with us. Why don't you just start out and tell us about your entrepreneurial journey? How in the world did you get involved in this mess?
Yeah. It was kind of a long time ago, but like a lot of entrepreneurs do. I'm not one of the entrepreneurs who grew up knowing this was my calling.
Oh, I didn't either.
So you get it. It's
yes.
like, it really is like, how did I get here? Got out of college. I still had no direction. I took a job as a personal trainer in a gym for like 6 months, and it was about 5 months too long. I was not very good at that at all. And really the worst part of it was that's when I realized I'm a bad employee. Like I just not cut out for it. So that's when it hit me like, okay, I'm going to have to find my own way. That was kind of my first like major light bulb moment. Yeah. So then I ended up buying the pro shop in another gym and then doing that again. And, they're like this little small smoothie bar retail things.
Okay.
And then opened up a personal training company in another gym, and that took off. And so this is probably a couple of years later. We had some kind of innovative practices going that nobody else was doing at the time. Went to some conferences, told other people about it. They said, I'll give you money to tell me how to do that. So then I became a consultant. And then this is probably another year, 2 years later, we were flipping that into information products, business coaching, mastermind programs. That became a certification. That became a franchise system. Yeah. So like it was a flurry of like getting in there, figuring out like how the hell are we supposed to do this? And then realizing we could package that and sell the advice. Like we were building content businesses in 2006, 7, 8.
Oh gosh.
Like before anybody else was doing it.
Right. You're like, here's our content pack, but also like and you were just doing the fitness in that arena, like in that segment?
At that time, yes.
Okay.
And it was like, it was not fitness advice. It was how to run your business, how to make more money doing what you're doing. Like we were teaching the practitioners how to
operate.
Right.
Oh.
Which it seems
And
like there are billions of people doing that now. Everybody's got that advice, but
go
I
go
think
go
they're like,
online. Would you like a mastermind class? Would you like
yeah, who doesn't
Yeah,
have one? But we were doing
right.
that when I
Nobody.
didn't know anybody else was doing it.
Yeah. All right, so that's so what's been the most rewarding part then of your journey of doing all that, learning from that? And you said that you've like exited or you're transitioning from kind of going into a new phase of your journey.
Yeah. So the I would say like the most rewarding part is like I had to figure out all those things the hard way,
Yeah.
and being able to turn around and say to other people who are in the place where I was and say, hey, like I can save you all this time, all this money, all these sleepless nights. Like
Mhm.
it's still going to be hard. There's still things you're going to have to
Right.
figure out, but you don't have to make all these mistakes I did.
That's right.
So here, like skip the line. I just like doing that.
Yeah.
I like to go figure stuff out. I like to solve the problems and then kind of hand it off.
Hmm.
So that part I love. And then the second part you ask about kind of my current stage. So through that whole story, like I've had several dozen companies either founded or acquired,
Hmm.
and then got that divested and exited. Most of them, other than three, up until the last few years. So now I still have three of those businesses operating, but they're being run by operators. So I'm not involved
Oh.
in the day to day.
How relaxed, and that's like dream city for a lot of founders of like, how can I just step away
On
and
the
just
surface, it
just
is.
run, like sit up here and be a visionary and not be in the business. You have achieved the freedom.
So on the surface, that may be what it looks like, but you probably know better. It's like so. I stepped away from Fitness Revolution, which was our big coaching business, at the beginning of this year, and the guy that's been running the show there has been doing a great job. But that's when I was like, well, now what?
What now?
It's been a long time since I didn't have something to like when I
Uh,
wake up focus on.
yeah,
So, that's how
that's
podcasts get started. So I did that, just
you write a book.
go to work on the book. You meet a lot of people. You update your LinkedIn profile umpteen times, but it's, I'm not trying to escape, right? It's
Right.
more like catch my breath and clear my head and figure out how to reapply the things that I'm good at and that I
Mm,
enjoy doing, and make sure that it's not just inertia from what I have been doing.
yeah.
I don't want to just get back up and do the thing that I'd been doing out of habit.
Right. I feel like a lot of founders, a lot of entrepreneurs kind of have this innate ability is that when we get a moment of downtime, our brains are wired to problem solve, create. I mean, my favorite quote, I don't know who said it, but it's creativity is just intelligence having fun. And I find that we are wired in a way of like, you put us in, just give us some downtime. We're going to come up with something because we
Right.
can't help it.
Yep.
We will find a solution to some problem that we hear. We see something out there. We're like, let me go ruminate on that for a minute.
And if we're not careful, we'll create a problem to solve.
That's
Like I mean, we've worked with a lot of business owners over a long time. And one of the things that we talk to them about is like, you get to this stage, if you start to feel idle and you get fidgety,
uh,
you maybe need to like distance yourself a little bit more so you don't break something, even unintentionally.
right, right. Or disrupt a team that is starting to get their gel on,
Yep.
right?
That's it.
That's fine. So I'm going to ask this question. I ask every founder. I've done, hundreds of interviews, and it's my favorite question. But if you had to sum up your entrepreneurial journey in one word, what would that word be and why?
That is a good question. So uh, I'm afraid that my answer is going to be, this is going to be kind of boring. So I would say fun. I
Okay.
also was thinking chaos came to mind, but I think it's because you said chaos at the beginning of the conversation. So, but I could see chaos being applicable.
Yeah.
But I guess I would say fun.
Chaotic fun.
Okay. If it
There we go.
one word, yeah. I'm trying to stay within the rules, but that's not going to work either.
What did you have? 3 words or a phrase?
Mm. I mean, probably like the exciting chaos thing
Mm,
is because it has been
the
chaotic,
it's
right?
the thrill.
There was,
Yeah,
and it was not planned, but it was not so chaotic that it was like excruciating. It was more like
it's
just
thrilling.
enough that it was exciting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that. I don't think we've had that word yet. People, even though our show is Hello Chaos, which is kind of our world, right? Well, we welcome chaos. We live in chaos. We
Mhm.
organize and structure chaos. But I think you're the first that it's fun chaos. It's thrilling chaos. It's
Yeah.
exciting chaos.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
love it.
I use the words like complexity,
Mm.
uncertainty, and chaos all of the time when we're
Uh,
talking about, my podcast is the name of it is The Business Owner's Journey, right? And that journey is complexity, uncertainty, and chaos.
that's right.
So,
And it and that's I talked a lot of founder words. We're trying to desensitize words. We're trying to normalize some of the challenges or the barriers. I think either people think it's this sexy entrepreneurialism or running a business. Ooh, it's freedom, and it's like no, it's hard work. Like
yeah,
um, it,
freedom
it,
and riches and easy.
it easy. It is not. Yeah. Um, what do you think is thinking of not easy? And you talk about the uncertainty, the what'd you say, the uncertainty, the complexity, and the
And chaos.
chaos. What has been for you? I mean, I know you work with a lot of businesses and you coach and you've kind of given people kind of scale up kits. But for you, developing all that and kind of creating a business and multiple business around it, what has been your what have you found to be the most challenging aspect of being a founder and a CEO entrepreneur? What has been the most challenging aspect?
For me, probably just working with staff. I don't think that necessarily has to be is like everybody's biggest challenge, but
Yeah.
for me, it was
Oh, it's
hardest
mine.
to pick. Yeah, like, but I think there's a lot of power in being aware of that, right?
Yeah.
If you're not aware of it, then you could just be like reckless and make it
Right.
even worse.
Right.
But for me, it's probably managing is probably been the biggest challenge, like the
Mm-hmm.
skill to develop. I like leadership and strategy and some of those things came to me more naturally, but like getting in the day to day and managing it I've just had to work really hard. I like to go fast
Mm.
and be pretty, decisive but flexible.
Right.
And so I've had to do a lot of work on learning about communication styles
Yeah.
and ways to put people in a position where everybody gets an opportunity to process
Yeah.
and contribute. And it's just taken me, a long time. And
Yeah.
it's still, I'm like everything, it's a work in progress.
That's right. I think that's our theme. We're always a work in progress.
Yeah.
I'm a walking work in progress. Chandler, our producer, is like, yeah, you are.
Not the
I'm
time,
not afraid to
not
say
the time.
it. Not afraid to say it. What do you think is, I mean, and you work with a lot of owners, entrepreneurs, and founders. So speaking for yourself, but also what do you see out there? What do you think is the biggest myth about being a founder, about running a business that you think it needs to be busted as what's that misperception that we can go,
Hmm. Well, I think there's a bit of a gap among business owners as
hmm,
to what running a business really entails.
hmm,
I think I'm a big fan of the creator economy. I think it's been a
yeah,
great thing, and gigs and all this stuff. Like that's part of what brought me along my journey. But I also think that it kind of blurred the lines between levels of expertise and
yes.
skills and quality.
Oh, talk about
And
that. Please, please, please. I feel it. I feel that. Like that's been a part of our journey too.
yeah,
But talk, like, Expand on those things.
Yeah, well, it just kind of blurred the lines, right? Like it
Yeah.
lowered the barrier to entry to a lot of things, which, it's great. It gives everybody, people an opportunity. However, that, there's not, it comes at a cost. There is a
Hmm.
trade-off for that, right? And so, now more than ever, we see you have to really be skeptical with what information you follow, who you give your money to,
Mm,
whose advice you take, because anybody can say anything. And I'm not really just like talking about the obvious scam artist. There are
yeah.
people with really good intentions
That.
who,
Yeah.
maybe are overpromising without realizing it. I know in my career somewhere along the way, in 2008 or 9 or 10 somewhere, I'll guarantee I was one of those people.
Mm,
Probably. I like it. It's almost a certainty because like I didn't know what I didn't know,
that's right.
but there was a lot of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's okay, but you have to be constantly in pursuit of like closing out those blind spots so you can be true to your message with
Yeah.
your audience, right? So
Yeah.
you need to be able to speak to your level, your acumen, your capabilities, your skill,
Right.
the outcomes you can produce, like within a pretty good reason. So you're not over promising, even if it's unintentional.
Right. Or probably to help, you probably help business owners to help discern that not everybody that comes to you with this, certification or whatever can do what they need to do. Because we see that in the marketing industry. I've been in it for 30 years, but to see in the last probably 5 years, 10 years, we started seeing a trip. But, you know, I thought it was just inexperience. And now we're just seeing just pure scam artists, bad art, bad, what we call bad actors of, um, anybody can just grab a computer, say I'm an SEO specialist, put some black hat tech on a website and falsify people's traffic and just collect, $500 a month from companies. And the companies have no idea that they're
And
like, well,
then they can go on Twitter and tell people they're doing that and try to build an audience as like the black hat SEO guy.
right, right. And so it's, we've just seen this like explosion. And I have to meet with business owners and CEOs and CMOs and stuff on, the marketing. They're like, I don't like marketing agency. They have this distrust of like, well, we don't operate that way, or we've been doing this a long time. You've just hired inexperience. And like I said, for a long time, I never thought there were bad actors out there. I just thought it was inexperienced people that never worked in agencies or really were trained
Mm-hmm.
um, in the environments that we were. You're hiring for that inexperience. But we
Yeah.
feel that even when because our business model on the bright side, the agency, we had a different business model, a more hybrid from the beginning. Before it was cool, before COVID, we were 100% our virtual office. We had people all over. We had 1099. I didn't want employees after being, a manager of people for 25 years and having staffs of 50 people, 100 people at an agency. I was like, I want to do any more. If I have to do a performance review, I don't want to like, let's
Mm.
just do 1099s. I can hire really experienced people, vet them. I know their quality. But then as we started to grow, it was like, you're getting bombarded. I'm like, I'll give you a chance. Whoops. That was a mistake.
Yeah.
Even not like then resumes got padded and it's just the last 10 years have been learning of that gray area that you were talking about is very real to me.
Yeah. Well, I make this joke to friends a lot, like, because I have friends who are in marketing, and it's like marketing agencies are the new business coaches.
Yeah.
Because like I'm watching happen to agencies, just like we went through it as
Hmm.
business coaches, where it's like, well, you got to be careful telling somebody or
Right.
introducing yourself as a business coach, because they
Right.
probably have been scorned.
Right. And it's like, Marketing, people don't know the difference between branding, marketing, and advertising. They mix those frameworks up. And yeah, it's a mess out there in our industry. We don't do any, our industry is worse. Someone's like, I don't even know the difference. So if you say full service agency, I don't even know what that means. And I'm like, that's a problem. 10, 15 years ago, people knew there was, you knew exactly what that was.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not the same. It is a different landscape. But you're right. It is that skepticism.
I think it'll correct itself too,
I
to
hope
a
so.
degree. Like the economics are going to force some things to separate also. And I think that there's already data out there on this, like buyers are becoming better buyers. They're
Yeah.
approaching things for the most part with a healthier level of skepticism.
Yeah.
Some of it may be a little beyond healthy level, but that's okay, right? The pendulum is going to swing
It'll
back,
swing.
hopefully.
I just want people to ask more questions, right? I mean, it's be smarter. I mean, as a business owner, I don't know if you hear this a lot, but I feel like there's this sentiment among small business owners, but even scaling. Like if you're, you know, of significant size, there's this mindset of either marketing is considered an admin support, like support to sales, and is not really seen as a strategic lever in somebody's business, or they consider it completely overhead of, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a revenue driver. Like that should never be, like you should be seeing return. And no matter what you're in
Yeah.
marketing, branding, or ever now your runways might be longer, but don't consider it overhead. Like that's
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably kind of goes hand in hand with like how the way that would manifest in a lot of the clients that we worked with is when you talk about marketing, they're like, well, it's basically just going to be social media busy work,
right.
like do
Right.
my social media post. We're
It's
not really
admin
expecting
work.
anything out of it, but we got to do it.
Right. That's right. It's like, no, no, no. If you do it right with intention and strategic and put creativity to it, you should see a return.
Mm-hmm.
It might
Right.
take 6 months or a year, or whatever, but you should still, there should be an objective behind it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah. Cause we see that we're like it's like, no, that's not it. That's not it.
Yeah.
It's time, money, and energy that you're spending. So it's got to have a
But
return.
it's probably helping you guys up your game a little bit in
Oh
knowing
yeah.
now, like, well, I'm going to have to educate the prospects and clients a little more. So
That's
I've got
right.
to learn how to explain this in their terms a little bit more. And
That's right.
I
Um,
really don't know a different way to approach it.
there's no other way. It's just education. It is.
Mhm.
So what is the biggest, I mean, other than you were like, aha, I gotta start become an entrepreneur because I'm unhireable. Just kidding.
So that's exactly what I thought and still think it.
But were there any other aha moments in your journey, like as you were, going through the ups and downs of your business?
Mhm.
Was there a aha moment you were like, whoa, this changes the way I think about things?
Yes. And I think mine were looking back, like they were pretty clear. So there was that one. And then not too long after that, I had the realization like I can't do this alone.
Yeah.
I've got to go. I need to find, I wasn't sure exactly what I was looking for at the time. In hindsight, I was looking for coaching and peers. I
Ah,
needed to be around other people. Like, I need to be in a peer group and I
right.
needed some type of guidance in my corner. And like, even now, like one of my things that I just like rail on all the time is every business owner, you should have these 3 levels of support. You need to be a part of a big community. You need to
Yep.
be a part of a smaller, more intimate peer group, and you need to have a one-on-one coach.
Oh,
Like those are my rules.
that is fantastic advice. I don't think I've heard that before,
Really?
honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but that's where it came
But
from. Me staggering around like I've got to find some help, and I stumbled my way into Vistage.
okay. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so then I started to figure out like, okay, this is what the successful business owners, the people that I'm aspiring to
Right.
be more like, this is what they do. This is how they put together a support system for themselves. These are
Okay.
the things that they think about. This is what they spend their time on.
So Nick, For our listeners that don't know what a Vistage group is, because I've talked to a lot of founders, I'm like, have you heard of a Vistage? And a lot of people don't know what that is. Describe what a Vistage group is, what it does, why it's important to be in something like that.
Okay, and this will actually be a good example of the difference in like that gray area we're talking about, like
Yeah.
something done professionally versus the bro.
Unstructured.
Yeah. So Vistage, everybody's probably heard of a mastermind group.
Yeah.
And if you've been a part of one and walked away scratching your head, it probably wasn't a great one. It was just a group
Mm,
of people that got together and like talked over each other and maybe bragged about some things that they'd done.
right.
That's a bad example. A
Okay.
good example is one that has some structure. There
Mm,
are maybe some criteria that you make sure that the group members are similar enough, like-minded enough, that it's facilitated. There's an
mm.
agenda and maybe some curriculum. So
Okay.
it's not just a show up and free for all. It's more, it's like small group, 8, 10, 15 people, similar businesses, but not competitive, and a facilitator who runs the
Mm,
meetings. So you're able to like come together and help learn from each other's lessons, solve problems together. You know, it's like you're buying speed in
right.
those situations. So it's like it's what a mastermind group should be.
Right. Almost like a very, almost like an accelerator type of a community that
Mm.
you're, I mean, you
Um,
guys are working together to accelerate your business. Like, hey, help me scale or help me unlock, or I'm unstuck, or is it like that?
it's similar in
Okay.
an accelerator. From my experience, is there's a little more burden on the leadership. Like it's more like a one to several or
Mm,
small group training or coaching.
okay.
And in Vistage, like the facilitator is responsible for kind of keeping things on the rails, but
Okay.
you're really trying to source the experience and knowledge from the other peers
Gotcha.
more than you would maybe in an accelerator.
Gotcha. Okay. And then so that's one level. Everyone needs to be in something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an owner, founder, and then what was the other?
So you need to have a one-on-one coach or
Okay.
advisor, guide, and somebody in your
Mm,
corner who like knows your business in depth, knows you really well, knows what you're about. Somebody who can kind of hold up the mirror to you every once in a while
mm,
and say, hey, like, you need to be accountable. You're not doing what you said you would do, or you're not,
okay.
uh, the behaviors are not aligning with the commitments.
Okay. Is a one-on-one better to be like how would you find that? Is it somebody that is more of a leadership coach of like how do we develop your people management skills, your leadership skills, or is it someone that is helping more from a hey, I know this business and this is the way you should be running and operating a business. What
That's a good question. So I think it will change over time.
okay.
So for me, like I've been through different versions of each of those things at different times. You kind of, it's not like a revolving door. There was overlap in some, but like if you hear, so that we just had the Olympics, right? And
Right.
you hear these athletes talking and they're like, well, I've got a coach for this and a coach for that and a coach for that and a coach
Mm,
for this. They
yeah.
sometimes you may have several things that need to be worked on, but
Okay.
what's important is that you have someone dedicated, like putting their attention on that thing.
Gotcha.
I kind of so I like to keep the list, at least in general, to leadership, strategy, and
Mm,
then having an operational system in place. Doesn't
okay.
mean that you like we have worked on all three at the same time with people. Don't have to do it like that. Like if leadership is kind of the thing that's your bottleneck
Right.
at the moment, find the best resource to help you with that. If
Okay.
you need work with strategy, like if that's the big pain point at the moment, then find a good
Then fine.
resource to work with strategy.
Gotcha.
Just
Gotcha.
but you need someone who like a dedicated set of eyes
Yeah.
on you and what you're doing
That you're meeting with on a regular.
to be accountable, to keep to like challenge you, somebody
Mm.
who is willing and capable of telling you the things or seeing things that other people can't or won't.
Mm.
But
Do
that,
you
that's you have to have that as a business owner.
yeah. Do you think it's important to have that person in your backyard, like, locally, or is that somebody that you could have virtually? Does it need to be in person or can it be a Zoom or a phone call?
Yeah, it can be I think the difference in those things generally is going to come down to like communication style, like
Mm,
preferences. But I don't think that it is necessarily a factor that should eliminate someone from
okay.
being able to do that effectively.
Okay. All right. Have you had some bad coaches versus good? Like, have you ever you've had good coaches and good mentors?
Um, let's see. I wouldn't say that I've had worked with anyone who was bad their job. I've had the best coach that I ever worked with had a couple of bad moments, but like, he's human.
Yeah.
That's okay. Like it didn't that definitely didn't define him, but
Right.
that's probably the way like what you should expect. These were the people that I worked with were vetted and expensive.
Hmm.
So it's not like if like the conversation we were just talking about, the inexperienced
Right.
person. Like I didn't just go to somebody that they had no resume, or I talked to
You were
people
like, they
first.
had a good resume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were referred to me by people that I trusted. So
Mm,
in those cases, I would be very surprised for them to been bad at what they were doing.
okay. Okay.
But
Uh,
bad ones do exist.
yes. So you need to vet them
Yes.
and get comfortable with them because you got to build that trust, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
because you're going to be sharing a lot of stuff.
You
So
should
you
be.
need to, you should be. Don't hold back. People can't help you if they don't know what the problem is.
Right. I mean, it's one of those relationships like this is why one of the things that makes it so hard being a business owner is that there are not that many people who can relate to the things that keep you up at night.
Right.
And the better you do, the more successful you are, the closer you get to your goals, the fewer people there are going to be who can fill
You're,
that role.
that's right.
And you have to take responsibility for going and finding people who can fill it.
That's
Because
right.
if you don't, your behaviors, your mindset will change, not necessarily for the better.
Right.
So you
Right.
need to go find those people. And when you do, you have to create an environment. You kind of have to give into it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
if I'm
you,
going to hire you to hold me accountable and call me on my shit, then I'm going to have to be vulnerable and honest about some stuff with you.
that's right.
It's not a contest. Like if I try to show up like I've got all the answers and appear
Right.
perfect,
No
you can't
posturing.
do anything.
Like, come on, we got to be real. We
You
got to be
got to be real.
transparent. How can you help me if I can't, if I don't know, if I don't know what's going on?
That's
The
right.
real stuff, and I think you're right. For founders and owners, you know, there's a very small group that can understand uh, uh, those barriers, the shoes that we have to fill, the day that, and I always say that like as you scale your business, you jump to different circles, right? Uh,
Yep.
and sometimes those circles, as you get bigger, but then those circles shrink, and then you're like, I want to be in that circle, but it's like that circle doesn't want me yet until I can grow. So yeah, I'm always like, I'm learning, I'm relearning, I'm stop, and then I gotta stop learning things, and then I gotta relearn again.
Yeah.
It is
And you have to have a certain mindset to do that,
to
right?
do that.
To
Yeah.
subject yourself to it and to stick to it.
Yep. Ugh, the discipline. I'm working. I'm trying to get better. Trying
And
to get better on that.
resilience.
And
I mean,
resilience. Yeah.
if you've been doing this for what you said, like 30 years.
Well, I've been in marketing and worked at agencies for about 30 years. I started my own company in 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's,
yeah, you've got a pretty healthy dose of it.
I've done this. Whoop. Now I'm back on like going.
What's your one word?
My one word is serendipitous. So never thought I'd start my own company. I mean, that was kind of my never thought about it, didn't want it. I hit a glass ceiling, or I would say a glass ceiling was crashed upon me at an agency I worked for. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take an opportunity. I took a contract thinking, I'll work this while I'll interview and see what else, what else I want to do. But my phone rang off the hook from past clients, the clients I was working with at that agency who were like, you're the reason I took my business there. Are you going to start your own agency? I was like, no, I don't think so. They're like, you need to start your own agency. But my phone really, like, what it blew up on was all the past people, like the creative directors I'd worked with, the media people I'd worked with, the account people, the video people, the events people, the research folks, of all like the peers I'd worked with in the agency world who were like, I'm not going to date myself because you were in the same, about the same age as me, but 2008 to 2010, when the recession hit, it killed our industry. I mean, 40% of ad agencies closed their doors between 2008 and 2010, and ones that survived probably cut their staff by 50%. So you had a lot of really good talent that hit the streets after that. And so here I am, 2013, and you had all these great creative directors who had said, all right, well, I'll just create gigs. I'll just be a creative director for hire. Or you had a media person that was like, well, I'll be a media buyer for hire. Or you had a account planner that was like, well, I'll be a strategist for hire. But here they're working with all these clients who need full service or need more of a holistic approach. So they were like, and these people needed also, they wanted to scale. So that's how Bright was born, of like, hey, we're all working to grow these clients together, but the client really wants a holistic team, And so I'm like, well, maybe Bright can be that connective tissue. Maybe Bright can be the best and brightest in all these different disciplines. I can build the operations. I can build the systems, the infrastructure, but then bring all of these different communities of creators, of producers and thought leaders in the different disciplines of marketing. But they don't, because these were folks that had 20 plus years experience who were like, I will never go work for an agency again. I'm independent and I will never go back. So it's like, but how do we tap into that expertise in that mindset? So that's how Bright was born, was under that kind of idea of, okay, we can serve the business community in a much better way, in a much more nimble way, but still solving their full service kind of holistic strategic problems, but bring the best and brightest of those teams where they're not paying for all the overhead that a large agency has to charge. But it was very serendipitous. Like, it just kind of all fell together because I was being brought in to work on this project, and then another person was like, I need you for this project, and then I was like, well, hey, we need this person to come to this project. So it was just like this web.
And that's the thing that you could do, and
That's right.
like,
And
the opportunity was there.
that's right. Just all just fell into place. But it's not anything that I really, like I said, it was very serendipitous. Or, I've heard, I don't know if it was accidental, but it was more serendipitous. I saw the opportunity and made the connections, and it's worked out.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we've made it 10-year mark.
That's
Who
excellent.
knew? That's like, that was hard. Didn't think we'd get there, but yeah. So okay, so your biggest crap moment, the big oh shit, where you're like, I've hit a wall, hit a barrier. What have been the biggest oh shit moments?
Let's see. I think so. A couple of things. I had going kind of through my journey, and kind of things are clicking. I get into Vistage, like I figured out I can't do this part alone. I need some help figuring out like what I'm supposed to be figuring out. And then the next thing was realizing like at this point we probably had 7 or 8 operating brands, and I probably had a staff of 40 people.
Whoa.
And remember, I'm not good as a manager. You can kind of see where this is going. But I realized like we're missing strategy. Like there's something, like we've got all these people who are capable and interested and willing, but for some reason it's just nonstop firefighting. And
Mm.
then I realized like, okay, we're missing the strategy to give the guidance,
Yeah.
right? And so, and we found EOS. Like this
Yeah.
is when Gino Wickman was the person who took us through a workshop. Like there were like 2 EOS implementers at the
Oh,
time.
wow.
Like it was
And
the
it's like,
beginning.
that is the very beginning. Cause it's what? Thousands. And like, it's a cult.
It is. It really is. But so that happened, and then we get through it and we're like, okay, that now we can kind of see everybody march. Now, EOS gives you this framework that you can kind of hold things up against and see like, well, what's missing or maybe out of place. So then I had a 50-50 business partner in all of this.
Mm.
And then
Oh,
we realized we don't want to do the same things. You want to
yeah.
do this and I want to do that. So we go through all of this learning and we figured out all this stuff. And like our business was probably at its peak then. And then we realized like we just did all that and now we're going to cut it in half.
Oh, yeah.
But we did that and we're still able to continue growing. Like since then, I've had the most profitable years, had the several exits. He's done very well. So maybe it seemed a little bit counterintuitive at the time. We wouldn't have expected that necessarily, but because we got these other things in place,
Right.
they had that much of an effect. We were able to basically cut it in half,
Right.
almost
But,
exactly in half,
but for those
and
things to grow.
it still grew. It was almost like
Yeah.
pruning something.
Ah,
And I don't think that we would have been able to exceed that growth staying together and trying to make a concession, one or the other of us. So you
well,
hear a
that
lot
took
of
a,
bad stories about partnerships and
yeah.
especially 50-50s, and ours did not end poorly
Yeah.
like that.
Well, it sounded like you had two personalities that had a lot of empathy for each other and for the process and being transparent and just like doing it very respectfully. Because you don't, you're
Yeah.
right. You like you the the contention, the confrontation, like the egos. It sounds like all that stuff was kind of nope. Let's put that aside.
Well, it was difficult. I can't lie about that part, but I think we were both knew definitively like we know what the worst case scenario is here.
Okay.
And that is we're going to avoid that no matter what.
Okay.
So we will find a solution that other than that one, and just doing that exercise I think is what kind of made sure that the
Yeah.
empathy stayed close enough to the surface that we're no matter how conversation went, like
Yeah.
we could always zoom back out and remind ourselves like, all right, remember
Right.
we're kind of still on the same team here.
Right. 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 We're still friends, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Change it, a little change of direction, but what do you think our listeners would be most surprised to find out about you? That's not on LinkedIn or it's not on a website or anything. Like, what would be something that would be surprised to learn about you?
Well, so I grew up on a dairy farm.
Okay.
That's one
In
thing.
In Kentucky, is
In
that right?
Kentucky,
What part of Kentucky, by the way? I forgot to ask you that. My family,
Hodgenville.
Hodgenville. Where is that?
Elizabethtown is like,
Elizabethtown. So
yeah,
my family is. I have family Elizabethtown, but my grandfather and he was one of 9. They had farms, tobacco farmers, all up and down from Nicholasville. So between Louisville and Lexington, but all the little small towns in
yeah,
between. But then a lot of moved to Elizabethtown but yeah, there's
yeah.
so I feel like I told you I'm from Indiana originally, but I've got a lot of Kentuckiana in me.
I knew we clicked. Yeah.
Uh,
So that's where my family, they're all
so
from
dairy
that kind of
farmer,
central
yeah.
Kentucky region.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. I love it. Did you like being on the dairy farm? Was it like a high producing, like a, massive amount of cows on the farm, or was it more of like a hobbyist dairy farmer?
No, it was not a
No, it
hobby.
was like a
Yeah. Yeah, we had, and we were one of the
one
bigger
of the larger
farms in the
ones.
country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my
In the
gosh.
county, not the country, in the county.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
Um,
whoa, how many acres was that?
no, we had several hundred cows, several hundred acres.
Yeah.
So, I like hard work. I like being on the farm. I like field work. Didn't love the animals so much,
So yeah,
but
they it was the tobacco farming was interesting because they didn't need much. It was like 40 acres is a big tobacco farm.
mm-hmm.
But then they did black. One of my great uncles did a black steer cattle. Was like an Angus, black Angus, that he whatever what do you produce generate. It was all very technical. Like they would have like one or two female cows, and then they had to be Angus beef, and they would have like one or two bulls that would then generate that, but they would put them in those like dairy, the metal containers. You would walk into like a small barn. There's like 50 of those things. I'm like, is that milk? And they're like, no, that's
And
the essence to breed the steer, the cow. And we're like, okay, good to know. That's
gotcha. Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
not dairy,
Right. Not dairy.
not dairy. Always good to life on the farm.
That's right. There's always stories, right?
Always stories. That's right. So how do you deal with like, okay, so you've had a really good spectrum on your journey of going from 0 to 100. Now you're kind of like, okay, what's next? What would you be doing if you had no fear?
Gosh, I need to think about things like
I
this more,
know.
don't I? Um,
I
I
like
mean,
catching people off guard.
I don't know. I mean, I
Do
kind
you
of want
have
to say
fear?
that I'm not.
Like if you weren't doing that, like if there was no barriers to entry, like, well, what do you feel like you'd be doing, or what would you love to do?
Man, what a good question. I'm I'm not. I don't know. Like that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out
Yeah,
now.
you're trying to figure out what you want to do.
Yeah. You know,
Well, then,
there's just not been anything that's like just been captivating, you know?
yeah,
A few years ago, a few 7 or 8 years ago, it probably would have been something in tech, like, go back and either
like
I
learn
would
to
either need to
code.
find I would need it to learn some degree
Hmm.
of like the skill or knowledge, or find a good technical co-founder. But a few years ago, I just felt like there was so much I mean, there still is so much opportunity,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like it's probably not for me. It wouldn't be as seamless for me to jump into it as it would have been then. Hmm.
No, like professional soccer player, swim, dive. No,
The only thing that comes to mind, I kind of get stuck on this stuff, is like I would just like come up with more stuff to do with my daughter. I mean,
ah,
she's
yeah,
2 years and 2 months, so
the best
like
age.
she's yeah, and I get to spend a lot of time with her, and
Yeah,
it's awesome. And I'm yeah, if
maybe you'll write
anytime
a
I think about
children's book. A
Kelly
game.
said she's going to write one this year.
Ah, I
Yeah,
love it.
so I don't know, maybe she'll let me draw in it or something.
That's right. Sky's the limit. Yeah. I always like that because someone asked me that once, and I'm like, oh, if I had no, like, if I didn't have to worry about leaving the business, I could just do whatever.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, I would totally finish. Like, I have a movie concept, and I would do that script. I would produce it, and it would be a hit, would
Yeah.
be a blockbuster. But to do something like that, I don't know. That would be my thing. Um, if you had to rewind on anything, is there anything that you would do differently that you were like, ugh, I didn't like how that worked out?
Well, there are definitely things that I think that I don't like how they worked out, but sometimes that's how it goes, right? Like
Yeah.
that's why when I talk about like the uncertainty, the whole game for a business owner is who can make the best decisions with less than complete information the most often, right? It's
Oh,
poker.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just trying to place the best bets you can with
Right.
what you've got, and you're never going to have all the information you want. So I'm big on the thought process. Did I think about things the way that I wanted to? Did I act the way that I wanted to? And then if I do those things, and even if I still don't get the ideal outcome, like, I'll live with that.
Right, right.
And I think I do a pretty good job of being thoughtful about like the decisions that I make, and treating decision making as if it's like the most important part of my job.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with things not always going my way. So I don't have regrets in that way, but I've said my share of stupid thing, like put my foot in my mouth, or
Yeah. Yeah.
try to be funny to somebody
They didn't
who
get the
wasn't
humor.
funny. Yeah, things like
Uh,
that. But
if we met a year from now, what would we be sitting down to celebrate?
the screening of your movie.
Yeah. Take it.
Well, by then we definitely, I definitely need to have more clarity on like in the direction what I want to do other than
Mm.
podcast. So I started a podcast because I had more extra attention and time, but I also have no intention of being a professional podcaster.
Yeah. Neither do I, but I still do it. Like I
Yeah,
forgot to preface that. I'm like, I am not a professional
you do
podcaster.
great. I mean, I want to get back into some partnerships and
Ah,
build a portfolio of businesses again. And this time, what I'm thinking about is more of a platform type strategy
mm,
where I've got a portfolio of services that most businesses can utilize. So
yeah.
bookkeeping, accounting, websites. Um, VAs, marketing,
Right.
so put together like a suite of companies that can all kind of share on the
Right.
client pool. So I'm not exactly sure what the milestone will be that we are going to celebrate in a year, but
Yep.
it'll probably be something.
Let's hope it's the launch of that business because
Yeah, it
that's
will
a
be
gap.
somewhere there.
That's a gap in especially small business. We need it.
Yeah.
We see it. Yep. Yep. That everyone can kind of talk. The accountant and financial advisor is sitting with the agent, marketing agency, sitting with the, like everybody surround
Mm-hmm.
that business leader with the right, almost like an EOS, right? What do they call it? The 11? Is it is it E10? E10? What is the weekly meeting in it
Oh,
called?
the L10.
L10.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like creating an off branch of EOS, but around the companies that need to be sitting around that seat.
Yeah.
Here
Yeah.
we go. We're workshopping it. We're workshopping this.
Yep. The
We're
wheels
going
are turning now.
to call it the L10 and be a branch of EOS for all of their businesses. I don't know if that's allowed. You'll workshop it.
Yeah. The wheels
um,
are definitely turning.
well, what advice? I mean, you've given a lot of good advice. I mean, like some new stuff that we haven't heard from a lot of founders. But what is the best advice that you received as a founder and an owner that really like stuck to you?
Well, it was you don't know what you don't know. You've got to make sure that you get out there and try to find it. And then the other piece is someone telling me that not to confuse someone's willingness to do something for their ability to do something.
Uh,
And which is kind of like going back to the root of my
yeah,
managerial struggles, was getting those two
to align.
intertwined. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, because then you're just putting people in a situation that they may be
they can't
willing to do it,
succeed,
but they can't succeed. Yeah,
right? And that's the worst to do, as we say, like manage with candor and kindness. Don't give feedback. Uh, Everybody wants to be able to help, but not everybody has the capacity
yep. And you're
to do
not
it.
doing them a favor by letting them run themselves into the ground.
Right. Nor you're helping your own business by
Right.
allowing that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Well, this was fantastic. Okay, so before we go, how do you want people to connect with you? Is there anything you also want to talk about or that I've missed? I know you got a podcast. Remind me of it's called The Business
The Business
Owner
Owner's Journey.
Journey. And then you said that you're an author. What is your book?
Oh, so I've co-authored a few books,
Okay.
but I haven't co-authored a book in 10 years. But they're on my website.
Well, then, so how do you want people to connect with you, Nick? And
If you go to nickberry.info, and you can find the books and the podcast on there. Like the podcast is at nickberry.info/podcast.
okay,
But it's the business owner's journey. That's the way uh, to get in touch with me would be to go to the website. It's got all my social handles there. You can find everything that you would possibly want to know about me or the businesses there. You can subscribe to the newsletter where I share the podcast and
okay.
stories from my guests every week. That's Command Central is nickberry.info.
I love it. I love it. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. This is fun.
Always fun. Yeah. I'm gonna have to check out your podcast. I'm sure I can relate.
Yeah,
Business
please
owner
do.
that I am.
We had a great conversation, so we may
Yeah.
have to circle back and do this again.
Yes. Oh, that would be fun. That would be fantastic. So thanks for hanging out. For all of our listeners or watching, anybody that's watching us, thank you for joining us. This podcast episode will be available on your favorite podcast platform. So subscribe to Hello Chaos, give us a like, comment, share this great content, help us build and grow a more connected entrepreneurial community. Hello Chaos is one of the many resources brought to you by Orange Whip. That is Orange Whip, WIP for Work in Progress. We are a multimedia company dedicated to serving founders and entrepreneurs in affiliate cities. Just your email to join our community, a one-stop content hub just for founders and an innovative digital zine experience. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast or support us, send an email to hello@orangewhip.com. Y'all, thank you for tuning in to Hello Chaos. It is where aha meets oh shit. See you next week.